This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. We're here in Birmingham, the second city, Jamie. I know that you're from Manchester. A lot of people from Manchester like to think that it is a larger city than Birmingham, but
It's
technically
on
it
its
is
way.
not.
It's on its way. It's growing.
It's still not Birmingham. But, how you doing?
I'm all right, mate. You?
I'm very well, thank you. A busy weekend ahead for yourself. You've got two fighters on the card. Let's just start off with Cameron Vong. Not the fight that he was hoping for, the fight that's been built up. You had people calling Taylor Catterall 2 a poison chalice. Do you feel like Cameron Vong and Jordan Flynn is becoming a bit of a poison chalice now?
It could be. I mean, eventually we got there with Jack and Josh, but totally different sort of ends of the game, so to speak. And it was a good fight. It was a good fight for Cam, and it sort of got a bit of attention on the way the way it was being built up. But maybe it's just one of them fights that was never destined to happen properly. And Cam, I'd been saying before the fight was rescheduled, he needs to move up to 140. I don't, he's 21 years old. I don't want him dragging himself down to lightweight. And it was a push, but he was adamant he had to do it because of the sort of back and forth what had happened with Jordan. So I was like, okay, fair enough, but you make sure you do it right. But then afterwards, we're going to go up. So this one's at 140. And he'll probably just stay there now after that. So depending on, I've been told that Jordan's injury is quite a serious one. It won't be a while out. So we'll see where he's at when he comes back. But wish him the speedy recovery.
Jeff Ofori, by all accounts, well, not by all accounts, but he's a very tough man, very durable, and he's had some very good upset victories in his career. Why Jeff Ofori for his fight now at 140?
Well, I just think why not? Cameron's one of them kids where he's not been matched easy anyway. And we're always, kids like that coming through, we're always looking to match them with fighters who are going to give them something, going to give them lessons. We don't want the type of opponents where they're just covering up and surviving. They're going to come in there and try and win. You're always going to get more lessons and more valuable stuff on board from them type of people. Jeff's a scrapper. He fights with his heart on his sleeve, and he's turned some decent fighters over because of that. He's persistent with it. He's fit. He's durable. He's a tough guy. So this is the perfect type of opponent where he'll probably take Cam into the later rounds. He'll probably give him a few lessons on board. So this isn't about Cameron sort of looking like a superstar. It's about gaining that experience against a good, solid, tough fighter now, so that in another 10 fights, eventually when he steps up to a very decent level, he's not learning on the job in them fights. He's already took the lessons on board and can win those fights easier, hopefully, further down the line.
Stepping away from him, you've got Akib Fiaz returning against Kane Baker. How's Akib found life since the Bellotti fight?
Yeah, it was a humbling experience. I think it's probably in the long run, when we sit there and connect the dots backwards, eventually it'll be the best thing whatever happens to him. A lot of the time, a loss can be a blessing in disguise, and I think that's it. Maybe me and Steve Wood was confident that we was taking the fight at the right time, but maybe we got it wrong by 2 or 3 fights, and you never know until they're actually in there. And he'd had the same sort of thing. He'd had some good tests, and he'd come through a few adversities and come through it well, and we thought he was ready for it, but he wasn't just quite there for it. So there was a bit of an argument on the night whether we should have maybe let him give him that minute and get through it. But I could see the mood Akib was in at that point, and he was just going to go in there and stand and trade with Bellotti, and that's something you don't want to do. And somebody getting knocked out, as in properly knocked out, and someone getting saved to fight another day, has a much bigger impact in the bigger picture, because the scars of being knocked out can stay with you for a while. Whereas, okay, his ego was bruised because I'd pulled him out, but he still took the lessons on board. Yet he's not got the damage on, and he seemed like a different fighter, especially in the gym. The way he's going about his business, it's like he's got a point to prove. And I've got a lot of time for Kane. I like Kane. I think Kane's the exact type of opponent what I'm talking about, where these guys are crucial for people's development, where they're not world beaters, but they're good, solid fighters, and they come and try and win. And they're the type of guys what you want in boxing. So it's a rematch. Akib was very young when he boxed him the first time. Outboxed him last time, but Akib's matured, come on a lot. He's a lot physically stronger than he was then, and I don't think it'll be the same type of fight as it was the first time.
Past experiences will be crucial, I imagine, for Akib to understand what to expect with Kane. But this is also Kane's last fight, so for him, he's going to want to go out on a high note.
Of course, it is.
Is that an extra pressure on Akib's shoulders?
It's not an extra pressure, but it just makes you know and understand. Well, you know what you're getting with Kane anyway, but maybe more so this time because he can see the finishing line and he's thinking, I'm going to go out with a bang. So he has to be careful. He has to be on his guard. But I firmly believe that Akib Fiaz at his best beats Kane at his best, and we're probably going to get the best version of Akib tomorrow. If anything, what he's done in the gym is to go by, he's in the form of his career. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good fight.
Was it a surprise to see a bit of kind of a heated back and forth, if you will, with a presser and then today with a weigh-in?
I think Kane was trying to do to him what he did when he was 20 years old, and it's just not going to rub the same because Akib's a lot more wiser, older, maturer, and he ain't that little kid anymore. He can't be pushed about, he can't be mentally bullied, and he's actually enjoyed it. He's told me, he said, for the first time, I feel like I've embraced it, and instead of like sort of just being a bit quiet and shying away from it, I've embraced it, he said, and he can't wait to get in there and perform.
You've got Aadam and Sami Hamed linked up with yourself up in Manchester, Jamie. Just talk to me about that move. Where did it all come about from? And with the pair of them, but especially Aadam, as he has had a couple of fights in his pro career now.
Yeah, Sam Jones is looking after him, and he rang me and said that he was interested in coming up and having a trial at the gym. So they came up and they had a couple of days and they loved it, and they said it would be all right if they came up and trained with us full time. So, and they love the kids. Naz was one of my heroes when I first got into boxing. So yeah, they're good kids. Very, very naturally talented. Not a lot of experience, especially no experience at all from the amateur background. But they've always been in boxing gyms. So they've been around the game a long time, and yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to the journey.
You mentioned kind of not necessarily great bundles of experience with a pair of them. One question which a lot of people still have over them is how good will they be? How good can they be? Very early days from your time working with them yet, but where do you see their kind of potential peaking?
Only time will tell. And one thing I do keep sort of emphasising with them is please don't allow the type of pressure what people are going to put on you, especially people from the boxing fraternity where they're going, is he going to be as good as his dad? Recently we've seen that type of pressure on Campbell Atten, and it's unfair pressure because people like Ricky and like Naz are like once in a generation type fighters. So for the pressure to be put on their sons, I don't feel it's quite fair. It's probably expected, but it's not fair. And I said to him, please don't put that pressure on yourself. Just try and enjoy it, go with the flow. Wherever your talent's going to take you, will take you, no matter how much you stress about it or worry about it or put pressure on yourself. What will be, will be. Wherever your talent's going to take you to, it will. So hopefully they're embracing that and taking it on board. But they've got a lot of natural ability and they've got a natural pop like the dad.
Jamie, a few weeks have passed now since Jack Catterall gained his revenge over Josh Taylor. Like many had Jack winning, probably closer than what the scorecards did, though.
Yeah,
what are your reflections on that fight now?
Yeah, I said that on the night. I Jack by 2 or 3 rounds, but he won the fight nonetheless. And I'm just so. It was a relief more than anything, And I don't mean this in a bad way, but I've been thinking about Josh Taylor for 2.5 years, even more really, because even going back to before the first fight when there was the situation about Jack being mandatory for Ramirez, and then Ramirez was going to fight Josh for the undisputed. And we sort of had an idea that Josh was going to win, and then Jack might fight him. So we've actually been planning for the fight for so long, and then the scenario unfolded after the first fight, going into the rematch. It'd been postponed, back on, and I don't want to think about Josh Taylor ever again. And and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I was just so relieved for Jack because it opens massive doors for him now. Not only is he on the verge of a world title shot on the back of it, but he's got momentum. He's getting to the point now where he's able to secure his family's future, and it's everything what 2022 brought us where we was thinking Jack Catterall never has any luck, where he's like his career's totally flipped round, and he's rode that wave. He's got through all the tough times, and now he's got the biggest win of his career over Josh, and it's opened so many doors for him.
You've mentioned you don't want to kind of think about Josh Taylor ever again, and you mentioned those doors being open. A number of fights have been mentioned. More so now the dust has settled since that victory over Josh Taylor a couple of weeks ago. Do you think then, from what you're thinking and from those fights which have been mentioned, i.e. Liam Paro, amongst others, Arnold-Barboza, a potential trilogy fight is just not on the table?
I wouldn't say it's not on the table, because obviously if there's intrigue for it and there's demand that people want to see it, because the second fight was much better to watch than the first fight, and in all honesty, that was probably Josh Taylor's best performance since Prograis. So I'm not saying it's without a sort of conversation, but the number one priority for Jack has got to be a world title shot. It has to be, and if it's not, then it's got to be a fight which takes him to a world title shot. And the other one is, if the Taylor fight is, in that sense, for me, would be the third in the list, and the reason for that would be because financially it would make sense for Jack, because in my eyes he's beat Josh twice. I know on record it's 1-1. And a trilogy makes sense in that sense, but for me, I don't think Jack's got anything to prove by fighting Josh. But if the fans want to see it, because the second fight was a much better fight, and he can't get a world title shot or something what takes him in that direction, then obviously it has to be looked at.
Just looking at a couple of those other options, that is, Jamie, with Jack, there's obviously been a few murmurs of the Arnold-Barboza fight.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that one being most likely to take place next?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, there was conversations going on about Jack boxing end of August, which at the time seemed a little early, but Jack's been back in the gym, ticking over as he always does, and he says he feels fine, feels fresh, no injuries, no niggles. So it's not out of the question. Maybe September or October might be better, but especially, for instance, if the Paro fight could be made, then you'd probably anticipate that would be maybe October time. Barboza has been mentioned, I've seen going back and forward on social media, and that fight makes sense purely for the fact that if he wins that fight, he becomes mandatory for Teofimo Lopez. So the doors, like I say, the doors are massively open for him now, and there's loads of options. It's just about making sure it's the right one, and I'm just glad that he's in a position now where he's got those options, because before it seemed like we sort of sat there going, what do we do? And he's the type of talent which deserves a lot more than that.
Liam Paro was the other name that I was going to come on to. Obviously, he secured a fantastic victory against the Matias this past weekend. Not many people gave him a chance, and he went out there and won the majority of the rounds for most people. Did you catch that performance?
I watched the highlights. I've not seen the whole fight, but I did pick him before it. We were talking in the gym, and everyone was like, "Nah, Matias will be too strong for him." And I said, "I think Paro's going to be a bit too crafty for him," and he was. He was actually a better performance than even I anticipated. I do think that Paro's got a good style for Jack. I think it'll blend to make a good fight, and I've got to take my hat off to him. He seems like a really nice guy, Paro, but that's a fight we'd love. He's got a world title, so he's certainly a fight that we'd be looking at.
Sticking with somewhat of the 140 division, we'll say the 143 division, because it suits Ryan Garcia. Obviously, we saw today the news of a 1-year ban, which has been backdated to, from what the recent report is, the April 20th fight with Devin Haney.
Yeah.
A $1 million fee, or just over a $1 million fee, going back to Golden Boy, amongst other things. What's your thoughts on that now?
Listen, if he's failed a drug test, he gets a ban. Is a year long enough? I'm not really sure, but it's a shame, because Garcia, that performance in that fight was terrific. I seen Haney was saying before that he'll wait a year and he'll fight. He'll do the rematch and stuff. Like, I'm not sure whether that's a good move for him. I think it was a very, very hard fight for him. Garcia punches so hard, and it would have put a lot of miles on the clock for him. If I'm him, I wouldn't be sitting out and waiting for a year for Garcia. I'd be maybe getting active you know, maybe not against someone as dangerous as Garcia, but making sure that he stays active. Sandor Martin, for me, would have been ideal, but he's not happy with the purse bid, and he finds himself in a sticky situation. This is what I mean. Like, sometimes you can think you're in a powerful, strong position, and then all of a sudden find yourself in boxing where you're going, what do I do now? So I hate this sport sometimes.
You're not the only one, Jamie. Just speaking on Sandor Martin, stylistically, how difficult of a fight can that be for Devin Haney? Because we know he's got an awkward style himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's not one what you'd want to see in my book. You know, it would not be an exciting fight, or even, you know, from a technical point of view, there's very few people who'd want to see it. You know, I'm not a lover of Sandor Martin's style, so I think Haney might vacate and maybe he'll move up. I remember him talking about going 147 straight away after the fight last time, so maybe that's what he could do. There's a lot of fights around those weight divisions, 135, 140, 147. So many talented fighters around there. So I won't be surprised if he either sits it out for 12 months or he vacates and looks for a fight at 147.
Final one from me, Jamie. There's a lot of reports and rumours that Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois might be sharing a ring at Wembley Stadium in September. If that one is to be announced at this press conference next week, interesting, that fight, and what do you make of it?
Great fight. I spoke about this the other day with somebody else. It was like, Dubois has surprised me recently. I think he's still young, and the losses, like I was just saying earlier on, have definitely been lessons for him, because he seems like, you know, I've heard a lot of people talking over the years saying, you know, you can't teach toughness and stuff like that. You can learn to be tougher, or you can learn to adapt and get a bit braver and stuff like that. And that's what it seems like to me, is he's learned from those losses and he's come back. He's getting, you know, he's maturing, he's getting a bit older, he's getting experience under his belt. The only problem for me with that fight is AJ's probably the best form of his career, and you know, he did get hit quite a bit in his last fight early on, Dubois, but weathered the storm, come through it, and then you know, toughed it out. You'll struggle weathering a storm like that against someone who punches like AJ. So I do think Dubois is massively improved, and he's really surprised me recently. But I just think he's getting AJ at the wrong time.
Jamie, I appreciate your time now. I'm going to leave you to go catch up with the team. Enjoy the rest of your night ahead, and
Cheers,
enjoy what's left of your experience here in Birmingham.
Thank you, mate.